The next theorem I'd like to talk about is explained for you on page number 717 at the bottom, and also on 718. It's theorem number 10.5. So I'm starting out today, or at this time, with another circle. It's circle O again. And I drew two chords. I drew the chord A, B, and CD. And let's imagine that these two chords are equal. So I started out with a statement here: if AB is equal to CD, then, according to this theorem, both of these chords have to be equally distant from the center. In other words, if two chords are equal, then from the center to each chord, excuse me, is equal distance. Now remember that the shortest distance is always at the perpendicular. So we're going to form a right angle at OFB and OED. All right? So the conclusion is then OF is equal to OE. Now that's a very powerful statement, because then you can set up right triangles. So for example, if I put in a radius here, then I can say the distance from OA squared equals the distance of AF squared plus FO squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem said that the squares of the legs equals the hypotenuse squared. In this case, OA squared is the hypotenuse, equals AF squared plus FO squared. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to go on and work through some examples, and I'd like you to be looking in your textbook now. I'd like to look at a few examples on pages 718 and 719. Let's start on number 1. Number 1, I notice that I have two equal chords. I'll remember the theorem we had to begin with. If you have equal chords, then you have equal arcs. So that means that the arc SR is equal to the arc ST. But we had a theorem a few days ago, last week, that a central angle equals its arc. Now a central angle, remember, is an angle that starts at the center of the circle and then radiates out. So S to the center, which is unlabeled, but there's a big blue dot there, to T, that's called the central angle because it includes the center. That has a measure of 93. So the arc has a measure of 93. But if the arcs are equal, okay, that implies that, well, they're equal because the chords are equal. ST is labeled as long as SR. So that makes X 93. Okay, let's jump on to another one. Problem number 5.